I'm seeing her a lot.
Where did she land? Is she at Lake County?
No, she's working for a private person right now and still trying to figure out her GIS future.
Okay, wonderful. She's the best, Patty. She's so great. All right, here we go. I'm gonna just start letting folks in.
Okay.
And here, okay. Thank you. Good morning.
Morning, everybody. Nice to see you. There's still a few people connecting, so try and wait till most folks are on. All right. Looks like most people who are going to arrive on time are probably here already. Nice to see all your names. If you want to go ahead and turn on cameras, that's okay too. I don't have a very formal agenda today. Just a few updates for some things that want to follow on from our Chicago Wilderness Cafe that we had last week. Some updated news, etc. from there. And then what I really want to do, because there are some new faces here, I want to open it up and have everybody have an opportunity to introduce themselves and give us a little bit about who they are and what their interests in the CW Alliance is all about. And yeah, so just that's kind of the plan for today. A few more people coming in. And then we have one update that is kind of important, and I'm going to leave that for the last because I want to make sure that everybody who's going to sign in is on board before we make that announcement. So, hey, Brandon, you want to start introducing yourself and telling everybody what your role is?
Sure, Patty. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Brandon Hayes. I'm the founder and principal of Bold Bison Communications and Consulting. And we are engaged by Chicago Wilderness Alliance to work with the initiative teams like this one, the Healthy Landscapes team, to move some initiatives forward, set some goals and priorities for 2023, and figure out ways to move into an action mode, which is the goal and sort of the overarching theme for the Alliance in 2023. So happy to be here and was delighted last week to help Patty host the cafe, and good to see all your faces this morning. Patty, do you want me to pick someone else to go next, or do you want to guide the introductions?
Go ahead. No, let's just do it organically. I'm good with that.
Excellent. Then I'm going to pick on, let's see, Mary Fortman. Why don't you go next?
I'd be bummed if I didn't get to go first. So I'm Mary Fortman. I'm the landscape ecologist with Open Lands, and I work with homeowners or any property owners to do the kind of the things we're talking about, figuring out ways to make it easy for them, empower folks to do that kind of green infrastructure landscaping that we're talking about. And it's nice to see some familiar faces here. Hi, Ellen. Hey, Ted. And everybody else that I can't tell all the names, but that's me.
Well, Ellen, why don't you go next?
Hi, I'm a newcomer. I'm just incredibly interested as a private citizen, loving natural, healthy landscapes. And so I wanted to find out what your goals are, what you're working on, and see if I can help in some way or some of the groups I belong to can assist.
That is awesome. I'm so glad to hear that because the answer is certainly yes. We just have to, help you determine where you can fit in because we have lofty goals, and so we definitely need help. Thank you. How about you, Ted? You're next on my screen, so I'm just gonna.
Hey, Patty, and good morning, everybody. My name is Ted Hafner, and I am many things, but pertinently, I am the head of the climate initiative for Chicago Wilderness. So I'm joining for coordination purposes and advocacy purposes and elevation purposes.
Excellent. And I'm gonna pick on Mark Johnston because he's also a team lead.
Hi, yep, Mark Johnston with Field Museum. I've been there for about 12 years as a lead GIS analyst. My primary role has been in developing the CW Hub, or Green Initiatives website, as we call it now. And I've also done a lot of work with the Rights of Way working group with UIC, so I developed a database system there as well. And I help out on goal 3 mostly with the Rights of Way group. Turn it over to, hasn't gone yet, Jim Anderson. I don't think we've heard from you yet.
Oh, you're
Yeah, your squeaky mic problem.
There we go. Sorry about that. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I'm Jim Anderson. I'm with Citizens for Conservation, but I also sit on the steering committee for Chicago Wilderness. So thanks.
Emily, how about you?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Emily Reiswig. I'm the Vice President of Conservation and Policy at Open Lands, and very excited to be here with you this morning.
Nice to have you come. Lots of folks from Open Lands. That's great. Speaking of Open Lands, Sarah, you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Patty. I'm Sarah Sarose with Open Lands, a group I love working with, and I'm director of Lake County programs. Most of my career has been spent focused on working on Lake County lands and waters and helping to improve and protect them. And along those lines, I just got to say, Patty, you are a dream come true. So thank you.
Okay, well, thanks.
And I'm going to say, hey, Jeff Mengler, you've been helping a lot with all these projects. So why don't you go next? Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Sure, I'm Jeff Mengler. I work for Hay & Associates. Many of you know that I was at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for 18 years, and I've been involved in Chicago Wilderness since its inception.
You want to tag somebody, Jeff?
I will tag Jonathan.
Hoping I'm the Jonathan you tagged. My name is Jonathan. I am field representative with Friends of the Illinois Nature Preserves. I found out about Chicago Wilderness at the summit. Was that what we called the big get together back in November? And then I'm just here to see what's happening with the healthy landscapes and see how we can help.
Great, thank you. Want to tag somebody?
Sure, I'll pop it over to Hannah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jonathan's coworker, Hannah, at Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves. Like he said, just new to I'm personally new to the Chicago area and learning a lot and happy to be here and see how Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves and us personally might be able to be useful to the group's goals.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Gabby, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm on the road right now.
No worries. Go ahead and just give us a little blurb and then you can get back to it.
Thanks, Patty. Hi, everyone. I'm Gabby Nunez-Mir. I'm a new assistant professor over at UIC. I'm a quantitative ecologist, and my research focuses on biological invasions, generally at regional to continental scales, but I love to dabble with anything that has to do with data. So I'm happy to be here. Love hearing what else is going on in the region.
Great, thank you, Gabby. How about Julie? Julie Sacco? Doesn't.
Oh, there
she
we go.
goes.
I had to
Okay.
find my little unmute thing. Hi, everybody. Julie Sacco. I'm so delighted to see so many people from Open Lands. I'm going to date myself by saying Open Lands Project because I worked there a long time ago and loved every minute of it. Mark, it's great to see you. I haven't really seen you since I was at the Nature Center, so it's wonderful to kind of literally see you again. I'm now working, and this really does not, I'm here as a private citizen, but I'm working currently at the Adler Planetarium and am waiting to get more involved, let's say, with the campus greening initiative. They're bringing natives to the grounds. Now, this may not qualify as a large landscape like something, like Medewin or other places, but this little strip of a lot of hawthorn trees and crab apples could use a little upgrading, and I kind of can't wait to get started on that. Anyway, that's me.
Great, thank you, Julie. And actually, those smaller parcels are really important to our 30 by 30 effort. So thank you.
Yep.
Laura Dirks, how about you?
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is my first time with this group. I'm the Director of Nature, Culture, and Human Health Network. Know several of you on the call. And we are looking at not only collaborations among the issues of improving community health, improving planetary health, and closing the inequities in access to nature, but just trying to encourage people to work on all these issues simultaneously, even if it's just in a small way. But just to make sure that we are, trying to stretch our dollars that are coming down so that we can work on climate change in the broadest level.
Great, thank you. Casey Sullivan, nice to see you.
Hello, my name is Casey Sullivan. I'm the Natural Resources Manager at Argonne National Laboratory, and I'm on a number of the initiative teams. Thank you.
Kathy Garrity.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am Kathy Garrity, and I am co-chair of the Land Acquisition for Conservation Lands Initiative, and I'm also on the steering committee, and I'm just here to make sure we are crossing all the boxes and overlapping as best as we can. And I love the idea that the planetarium is greening their space. And I just wanted to give you this one idea, Julie, is the Shed Aquarium grew native hops, and then they worked with the local brewery to make a beer called the Penguin Hop. And I think the planetarium has tons of little brew concoctions they can do. Anyway, thanks. Thanks for organizing.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Cheryl.
Nicole. I love your picture, by the way.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Machuca. I am a new member of the Field Museum. Oh, can you see me? There we go. I'm a new member of the Field Museum, been there since July, and I'm here because I'm co-lead of the Monarchs and Pollinators Initiative, and I work with Mark and Catherine, who I'll pass it to in a minute. But yeah, I'm here because thinking about the direction of the initiative moving forward, and particularly interested in working with homeowners and normalizing native landscaping and an attitude towards natural plantings. So that's why I'm here, and I'll pass it to Catherine.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. So Nicole and I actually started at the Field Museum on the same day, and I'm also new to the Chicago region. In addition to helping Nicole with native plantings on the Monarchs project, I'm also help with stewarding Bobian Woods, which is a forest preserve. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to meeting you all and working with you.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Julie Mason. Okay, you're muted if you're talking. I can't tell because, oh, there you go. Thanks, Julie.
Oh, here we are. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm Julie Mason, the Restoration Coordinator with the Forest Preserve District of Will County. And yeah, I'm doing restoration stuff in Will County and pretty anxiously waiting for frozen ground to get some stuff done this winter.
Oh, yes.
That's about it.
I feel your pain, Julie. Matt Gertel, I hope I have pronounced that correctly.
Pretty close. It's Matt Gortel.
Okay.
It is Matt with one T. I am here as just kind of see what the group is about. In this whole entire, I think, landscape element is very important. I volunteer as a steward at Whistler Woods Forest Preserve, which is right around the corner from Beaubien.
Cool. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. And then I think the CRTI person, is that Melissa Kustik?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
So hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Kustik. I am the operations manager for the Chicago Region Trees Initiative, and I'm also the lead for the Urban Canopy group. And Patty, is this one I should mention? Okay, good. That's what I thought. I actually took on trying to lead it last spring, and I've done very little with it. So I'm trying to change that 2023. We're going to bring some action. So the goal for Urban Canopy is create a regional network tasked with inspiring people to value trees with the goal of reducing threats to the tree canopy, creating trees and ecosystems that are healthier, more abundant, more diverse, and more equitably distributed. So if you're in the 7-county region, you know that there's a lot of activity going on around that here, but I'd really love to expand our efforts and our conversations to the wider Chicago Wilderness Alliance region. So if any of these sound exciting and interesting to you, I will put my email address in the chat, and I would love to hear from you. I'd also like a co-chairperson on this group. So if trees are a passion for you, reach out to me and let's get some exciting things going this year. I will try to be setting up a meeting, by the way, in March, mostly to talk about what the challenges are across the entire Chicago Wilderness Alliance region, and also what are some interesting solutions happening in different places that we can promote and maybe try to expand. So reach out to me. And while I have your attention, I also want to let you know that the Chicago Region Trees Initiative is having their annual meeting, our partner recognition celebration, on February 9th at the Morton Arboretum. It's a free event. There will be appetizers and a bar, and we have some amazing speakers talking about heat island and climate change. I will put
Oh, I think she froze. I know she has, there you go. I think you froze for a minute there, Melissa.
Sorry, guys. I've had glitchy internet the last 2 weeks. I'm not sure why. I don't know where it got cut off.
It's the Chicago Region Partners meeting. You were going to say something about putting a link to the registration in the chat.
Yes, yeah. And the registration link will have all the information. We have amazing speakers, free food and drinks, great conversations. You should join us.
Yeah, so Melissa shared with me that they have plenty of open seats for that meeting. So it's a really opportune time to do some local and or regional networking with other people who are interested in trees. So thank you, Melissa, really appreciate that. And the last person is Laura Riley. I'm guessing most of you know who she is already, but Laura, why don't you just, talk about your role?
Thanks, Patty. No, I'm excited to see some new faces and names here today, and I welcome you all here. I'm Laura Riley, coordinator of Chicago Wilderness, and look forward to helping support and advance this work throughout the region. Thank you, Patty.
Yep, thank you, Laura. And for those of you who don't know me, just realize that I didn't kind of tell you who I am. I'm Patty Vitt. I'm currently with the Lake County Forest Preserve District. And I serve as the team lead for this group, the Healthy Landscapes group, for Chicago Wilderness Alliance. I'm really happy to do that. And just to kind of, if you haven't been with us, just to give you a big broad overview, we spent a good deal of time last year kind of trying to determine what our goals are for this group as part of the whole Green Initiative deep dive that Chicago Wilderness Alliance did. And we came up with several, pretty much one or two for each of the work streams that comprise our Healthy Landscapes team. And you can imagine that when you're thinking about natural resources broadly and healthy landscapes broadly, there's a lot to that. There's a lot to unpack because it's everything from, you know, the urban trees to the birds, to the bees, to our wildlife, rare plants, general restoration, best practices, our burn initiative across the region, you name it. If it's natural resources in one way or another, and it contributes to our healthy landscapes regionally, the Healthy Landscapes team is trying to bring the people who are working on those things together as part under the kind of the umbrella of the Chicago Wilderness Alliance. So last week, just to kind of recap and give an update, we did have a really fabulous cafe where we talked about two of our initiatives. The first one was our regional prescribed burning programs and the needs for increasing training in particular. We also heard from Dave Holman, who talked about regional mapping efforts for our burn program. So Dave Holman has been taking data for all of the land management agencies and mapping them and reporting those results to the Illinois Prescribed Fire Council. And in some ways, some of that data is also being deposited in the restoration map that Mark talked about earlier when he introduced himself. And I'm sorry, Mark, what are we calling the hub again?
Sorry, reaching for that unmute button. It's the Green Initiatives website. So
Okay.
Everything relating to the Green Initiatives is meant to be housed on the CW Hub site now.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. I'm afraid I'm going to still be calling it the hub for a long time to come. Anyway, one of the things that Mark has kind of set up, and Dave is also kind of thinking about, is instead of having those of us who have burn data depositing data twice, once with Dave and then also once with the Green Initiatives hub, is to just begin to deposit our data on the hub, and then Dave can grab it from there. So it's kind of just one less thing that we have to do. And I'm thinking that that's a great idea for my organization, because we can set it up where the data can be kind of swept into the GIS at the hub from our GIS, and that means that it's kind of automatic, and it'll just be there every year when those data are available. So that's a really useful time saver for us, and maybe it will be for you guys as well. Also on the prescribed burning front, unfortunately, John McCabe is, who's the president of the Illinois Fire Council, as well as the director of resource management with the forest preserves of Cook County. He's unable to be with us this morning to follow up on his portion of the prescribed burning talks at the cafe last week. but there's really good movement on that particular front. One of the burning questions, yes, pun intended, one of the burning questions for that group last week was the Chicago Wilderness Alliance prescribed burn training, which many organizations recognize as the fundamental entry point for a burn crew member. One of the issues there is we don't really have yet have an approval process for who can be a trainer for that training. And so there was a little bit of a bottleneck for that. But the folks who are really involved in that effort, including Jackie Barrow from McHenry County, Kelly Schultz from Lake County, John McCabe, and a few others. We're starting to have meetings to talk about that so we can get an approval process in place, which means that we will have a train the trainer kind of trajectory, and hopefully that will lead to additional opportunities for basic burn training, which is required for anybody who wants to be part of a prescribed burning crew. And speaking of that, I also want to let you know that Lake County will be hosting a volunteer prescribed burn training, a CWA prescribed burn training on March 4th and 5th. If you have any interest in joining a burn crew, or you know people who need that training, please send me an email and we'll try and see how many people we can accommodate for that training. So I'm pretty excited about that. Those are kind of the big updates for the prescribed burn portion of the Chicago Wilderness Cafe that we had last year. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the prescribed burning? Okay.
Patty, I was going
Yes.
to say, John McCabe and others are working on the community wildfire preparation plan, which is what that was written with Chicago Wilderness Grants, I guess almost 10 years ago now. And so that needs to be updated every year, every 10 years. And so that's a really important item to get finished, because it puts us in line for funding opportunities. So both for training and for equipment for prescribed burns. So that's an important document, and it really just shows how many natural areas interface with an urban environment, and kind of spells out what we should be doing to protect those urban areas from potential wildfires. So I just like to add that. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Ted, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Patty. So like you, we have our cafe on Friday and our next meeting next week. It's on my agenda to amplify fire, certainly, but also cooperative weed management. What is the best way to do that? Should I have them come to you for everything, or should I have them go to John for fire? What's the best way, if they're interested parties, to get looped into this?
So I think for fire, probably getting in touch with John is really a good, probably the best way to go forward with that. Although I'm certainly happy to kind of act as a conduit myself. I'm definitely, I have both a personal and a professional vested interest in getting that training going. So that's important. Bye, Laura, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Oh, there's a little bit about a grant, so I'll read that in just a minute. And then for the cooperative weed management, for the time being, I think it's probably going to end up being me. Although I'm going to tap Jeff Mengler too. I know neither one of us is got the bandwidth to be the champion that the weed management agency needs, but maybe if we keep pushing it together, we will get somewhere. because it is a really important initiative, and that's the next thing I wanted to talk about. So one of the things that that kind of came out of the cafe for the Cooperative Weed Management Agency is that we definitely, and this is something that I think we kind of know about, and there's a lot of interest in creating at least one cooperative weed management area that we can all be a part of. But it does turn out that there are, if you look at the Midwest Invasive Plant Network or whatever, they at least have a couple that are mapped. One is in the Calumet region. There's one in the northwestern region of Indiana. And then there's one in the southeastern region of Wisconsin. And those actually do look like they overlap pretty well with the Chicago Wilderness map themselves. And there is an absolutely enormous gap in Lake County. There are a few others, but Lake County is the kind of the big empty on that particular map. So that sort of tells me that maybe Lake County is where there's a pretty big need to step up. One of the things that we talked about last week also was Gary Glowacki was talking about the Lake Plain Partnership and the work that they're doing. They do have an invasive species strike team that works throughout that partnership area. And one thought for at least getting this initiative going was to maybe formalize the Lake Plain Partnership as a CWMA. It's not really formalized completely the way a CWMA needs to be, but it is at least operating like that. One of the things that they would need to do is have a formal steering committee, which they do have one, but it's not formalized. So the other thing that we talked about was, because there's so much funding for invasive species management in the watershed of Lake Michigan, that maybe the Lake Plain Partnership kind of merged to include the rest of the watershed, the Lake Michigan watershed, at least in Lake County. And so that would be kind of the Lake Michigan watershed from southern Wisconsin, kind of all the way down to the border of Lake County, which would be a big chunk. It wouldn't be perfect, but at least it would be a start. We have a meeting of that group scheduled, I think it's for next week. And that's on the agenda. Talking about these things are on the agenda for that group. So, and it would be a way for making that group also a little bit more sustainable into the future. So that's kind of the big news, but I will say, I think it would be great if as a group we could expand and make a larger CWMA that is more regional. And then I think one of the things that I envision for that is that maybe we have these smaller weed management areas that then kind of have an umbrella with a CWA wide group that, you know, kind of like could be the umbrella that helps get grants, etc. So, but it's still, I think that there's been a lot of movement in the direction for a CWMA, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. So if there's anybody on this particular call who feels like they want to be involved, that would be great. Thank you, Kathy. See you later. You mean the Lake Plain Partnership? That's not a public meeting. That's kind of the steering committee meeting. So it won't be on the calendar. Yep. But I will definitely, if that group decides to move forward into either expanding a little bit further south and or taking on the role of a CWMA more formally, I will definitely report back to the group. But I overall, I think it, just because I think it's just going to be important for funding, et cetera, coordinating, responses to all things weedy, having a larger group working on that would be really important. And I'm willing to do what I can to kind of push that forward and push it along. I will say that I'm a little concerned about taking on too much more than I have right now, because I am getting close to the edge of having enough so that to ensure that I don't do anything really poorly. I want to make sure that what I'm doing is actually like meaningful. So I'm not going to step up myself, but I am certainly willing to serve in any capacity to keep that initiative moving forward. Any thoughts or concerns, questions, insights? Brandon, and maybe you got something that you want to jump in with at this point?
No, I'm curious to hear the reaction of folks on the call, both those of you who were able to join us for the cafe last week, and then also those who are hearing about some of these initiatives. Everything from what Melissa said in terms of the urban forestry team, on to sort of everything that Patty just walked us through. So just want to give a little bit of space for folks to react, questions, comments, concerns, thoughts. Yeah, Sarah.
Thanks.
Thank you for working on this. So the Lake Michigan watershed, I'm really excited to hear about the movement on all of that. And in fact, we were working on that project a while ago, and it seems like it's stalled for a little bit. So it's nice to hear. This is the second time this week that I'm hearing about it. So that's pretty cool. So someone at Open Lands is going to want to participate in some way on this, is my hunch. But we don't want Patty overwhelmed. We don't want anyone overwhelmed, right? And there's an awful lot for all of us to do, but this would be a big one. This would be great. Thank you.
How about you, Ted? You have your hand up too?
Yeah, I did. And I don't want to hijack this because I do want to support the fire and the weeds and other things that bubble up. And speaking of bubbling up, I wanted to mention this earlier when Melissa spoke, but I was a little reticent because I don't want to open up a can of worms. While we are amplifying things that have energy like fire and weeds, the climate group is also interested in going after bigger fish to fry, and sort of that's where Melissa's comments come in. And I'm wondering if anybody in this group has heard of any talk about climate reparations in the term of tree planting or resource allocation to where it's needed most in the region. It's something that I've been thinking about in terms of getting more energy into climate and bringing some of these things that are bubbling up. But I don't know if it's trees or fire or weeds. So I'm interested in just people's thoughts about that. It doesn't have to come out now. If you want to email me later, I'll put my stuff in the chat. And then the other thing is, well, I'll stop there because that's enough. Anybody heard of climate reparations, or is that on anybody's radar screen right now in terms of resource allocation and tree initiatives for low canopy neighborhoods and things like that? Nope. Awesome. There's my answer. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Ted. That's an interesting take. It is definitely not something that I have heard about. I mean, it makes sense kind of what you're talking about, but not something that has been on my radar as of yet. Anybody else have anything they want to add about either burning or cooperative weed management? And
Yeah, if I could jump in about cooperative weed management, just wondering if you can say a little bit more about what that does. I know Jeff was super involved in that in the past. And just wondering from a geospatial standpoint, I'm wondering like if these areas have been mapped out and or if there's desire to do that or works in the way to start mapping out where all these invasive species are. So any feedback on that side?
Well, I would say the main mapping thing for those of you that don't know, Chicago Wilderness previously had basically a CWMA called the Northeast Illinois Invasive Plant Partnership. It went defunct a few years ago because we lost our fiscal agent and our funding. And really, I think what we're talking about is trying to get that restarted and built in a way that's a little more sustainable. But the main mapping thing we were involved with was the EdMaps thing out of University of Georgia, where they're mapping not just where all the invasive species are, but where those early detection rapid response species are, the things that are new to our region where we still have a chance of eradicating it before it's widespread the way buckthorn and calorie pear and some of the others are. But that's not to say that there couldn't be, those are all things we'd probably want to talk about, and to Ted's points about thinking about climate change. Clearly, one of the tasks of a CWMA would be to sort of be ready for those new invaders that are being driven into our area by climate change and that we're going to need to address. We'll have to decide what things count as invaders and what things are naturally expanding their range to adapt to climate change and all of that.
And Jeff, just to add to your point, I would say that being ready should also be explained or defined as like when some of this federal money comes down, we're ready to go with some ideas and receptors, right? Right. Yeah. And maybe one of the other things I think that you started with, Mark, was that to be a CWMA makes us eligible for certain amounts of federal funding, a lot of which comes through the Department of Ag. Previously, we got a lot of funding from the U.S. Forest Service, and that would likely be, new sources of funding coming through them and others, that if you're a designated CWMA, then it's easier to get at some of those federal funding sources.
Yeah, I just want to point out that Lake County has been turned down from at least one SOGL grant in the recent past because we were not part of a CWMA. So even if it's not strictly through the Forest Service, there are other funding avenues, SOGL, NIFWIF, et cetera, that you're more competitive if you are part of a CWMA, and those groups that are will be given preference in a competitive funding situation. So even if it's not a requirement the way some of them are, it still will help a lot.
Makes you a lot more competitive.
Yep, it really does. And there's, for me personally, the funding issue is really important in terms of, wanting to get this group revived. But the other piece is, just really coordinating efforts because, regardless of the scale that you're working at, if your neighbors aren't also controlling the weeds that you're working on to eliminate, they're just going to come right back in. And so that level of coordination just is just really important. And then for the early detection portion, having people cooperating as a group allows those early detection warning signals to go off a little bit sooner than if you're just working alone. So there's just a lot of really good reasons to be pushing this initiative forward. And I'm still hoping that we'll we'll find someone who has the energy to coordinate it. And I mean, I think the thing is about Chicago Wilderness that we should all be aware is that it's, if somebody steps up to be the champion, really what that role would be is, you know, setting meetings and really just coordinating the effort itself. It's not taking on all of the work. I think as a group, we would be doing that. Ultimately, just kind of formalizing the process would allow us to get the funding that would be necessary to hire a coordinator. And I would see doing that sooner rather than later, because if we have a coordinator on board, then they can do a lot of the day-to-day work. But the champion that's part of this group would still be, you know, the person who would have coordination kind of across the Chicago Wilderness Alliance area. So that's what I see that person doing. And I do think that that's a really important role for them. So if you know somebody who's really passionate about, you know, getting rid of weeds, have them get in touch with me and we'll see maybe, you know, how we can use their help to push this forward. Ted, you have another comment? You're on mute.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask Patty if there were any special qualifications that this person might need other than excellent organization skills.
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
that's probably the primary one. I think the rest can be on the job learning.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, right. But we probably, because in our previous existence, NIP had a full-time coordinator. We got lucky and she was fairly overqualified for the job. She actually had a PhD, but was out chasing down weeds. But we probably have a position description already written for that we could, you know, look to tweak and bring it up to date and those sorts of things. I think the main thing is just to get a steering committee reformed and have some leadership in that. And Patty and I can help get that started, and I can bring the historic perspective on what worked and didn't work before. We need to find a fiscal agent through whom to run those grants until we figure out if we can, how we wanted to structure that.
Right. And I do think that different from what was done in the past, I think that the Friends groups, Friends of the Forest
Right.
Preserves, the Preservation Foundation, would allow sustainable fiscal agent I would think that would be a lot more sustainable than in the past, at least to start. And then if we thought that the group wanted to form itself as a 501c3, you know, into the future, that is also a possibility. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, some of those groups didn't exist at that time.
Exactly.
We already do have draft language for what that fiscal agent agreement would look like that we
Cool.
can start from.
Yep, that would be really great. So I want to read if you didn't see it in the chat, Laura Dirks, before she had to step off, wanted to let us all know that NCH2 has a seed grant RFP that's open right now for planning. And she said that it includes, quote, caring for our land. And she put the link into her chat. So just that's something that's available, and it just kind of occurs to me, maybe that's something that we can look for some funding to kind of help maybe this initiative get off the ground. I don't really know because I haven't read that RFP, so I'm not sure how appropriate it would be for this or not, but that is one thought. So the last thing that I have on my agenda is following up from Melissa's invitation to get involved with the tree initiative, about urban trees. And that is that because Melissa has stepped up, I think that would be the the kind of one of our next cafes would kind of focus around that. So, and then Laura just posted something in the chat about funding opportunities in the community calendar. So are there other comments, concerns, something that you would like to share with the group that doesn't have to be the initiatives that we've talked about, could be something entirely different, something you want to learn about this goal group, some way that you feel like you can contribute to the goal group, but we haven't touched on that yet today.
And even to take a step back, you know, sort of a yes and to the questions that Pat's put out to the group, particularly for those of you who are new to the initiative or new to Chicago Wilderness and are trying to get a taste of sort of what this initiative is all about, sort of where we're going. I'm curious, you know, and would invite you, if there's something that you'd like to hear a little bit more about in terms of like, I'm not sure what they're talking about with all of these acronyms they're using and sort of names they're throwing about. I know that in our sector, because we do have so many acronyms and sort of we are a tight-knit community, it can be a little bit off-putting sometimes when we're using so many abbreviations and acronyms and referring to folks, who are moving work forward. So I just want to like sort of take the temperature of the group, particularly those of you who are newer to the group and are joining us for the first time today. Please do not hesitate to either in the chat or turning your mic on and speaking and say, hey, could you talk about that again, or could you clarify what you mean by this? Or, I'm not quite sure what you're talking about when you're talking about this aspect. I just want to make sure that we are as welcoming as possible to the folks who are newly joining us. So wanted to open some space for all of you also. And you can also say, oh no, totally got it, up to speed.
Yeah, what you just said, Brandon, reminds me about, teaching experiences that I've had where, and learning experiences where I've had where it's just really hard to learn the lingo and you feel like you're totally behind the 8 ball. And then you get through that and then you're the one who's using all the lingo and you forget what it feels like when you are struggling to learn it. So I really appreciate that. CWMA, Ellen has asked what a CWMA is. It's a cooperative weed management agency. And it really is a formal group that has a geographic boundary that works together to fight weeds, invasive species. And they can do that through educational initiatives. They can do it through the creation of an invasive species strike team, which would be a group of, invasive warriors who go out and actually battle weeds on the ground, maybe at a particular forest preserve district, maybe in a partnership. So for example, the Lake Plain Partnership has a strike team every year that works. They work at the Shiawaukee Prairie up in Wisconsin. They work at Illinois Beach State Park. They work at a couple of the smaller park districts along the lakefront that are municipally owned. And then they also do work at the Spring Bluff Preserve, Forest Preserve, that's part of the Lake County system. I hope that helps.
Other clarifications or sort of further background that folks are interested in?
So Matt is asking about the coordinator position and whether it's volunteer or paid. This would be something that would be a paid position. It would be a full-time position. It's I'm thinking about two different kind of positions. One would be the champion, which would be volunteer. It would be, somebody who wants to take on coordinating the efforts to create the CWMA and would help to obtain funding for a coordinator position, as well as any other on the ground educational work that we might want to take on, or strike teams that we might want to get funded. So I hope that helps. And Lisa is wondering about, she's introducing herself as the Landscape Advisory Committee Chairperson for Riverside. And on the board, you want to say a little bit more about that, Lisa? Just give us a little bit more background.
Hi there, sure, not a problem. Yeah, this was my first time on this call. It was very, very interesting. I'm looking forward to actually becoming more active with others, in possible opportunities for us to collaborate. So very interested in that. I'm also on the board of the Frederick Law Olmsted Society in Riverside. And then just recently accepted to work on the C4 living infrastructure portion for Riverside, as we're looking forward to be carbon neutral by 2050. So a lot of the things that you all are talking about, we're trying to do in our small community with a lot of volunteers. We're a small community. We're about 9,000 people, and we have very few, a small base of public works people, but we have a lot of native and natural areas. So, we are focused on this year. We've got our largest budget, which is not a very big budget at all, but working on invasive species and doing a trade-in, kind of like what West Cook had done last year, and do that for our private residents, and then focus on our public lands too. So I'm just really inspired by everyone that was on the call. And we're very interested. We do have a village forester that is really looking into the infrastructure bill and the structure. I know that he had mentioned to me a couple weeks ago that Illinois Forestry, what they have to do to even manage being able to request monies, that they're going to have to hire more people, which was interesting. So.
Great, thank you, Lisa. And I think, Eric, we also didn't hear from you. And I think you're new to the group. You want to just give us an update on your interests and a little bit about your background?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, currently in the field. Yeah, I'm very new to not only the field, but the Chicago Wilderness Alliance. Really interested in pretty much everything you guys said. It's all very fresh. So hope to take it in osmosis. Really interested in hearing about the fire trading opportunity, as that's where most of my interests lie. So thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Eric.
Oh, I should mention I work for the Nature Conservancy. I'm in Indian Boundary Prairies.
Ah, nice. Thank you. Great area.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, insights?
Patty, you mentioned earlier your tightrope walk with capacity and getting things done.
Yes.
Outside of the topics that we've talked about today, is there anything on the horizon that we should be thinking about to help take stuff off your plate, in a looking forward type thing?
That's a really fabulous question, and I appreciate it. The truth is that you know, there's a lot of initiatives that this group has kind of put out there. For the most part, they have people who are already working on them, which is great. And so I'm not trying to push too many more things, but the cooperative weed management area is certainly one. And then the formation of an ecological database is the other. Those are the two that I think, those are the big ones that don't yet really have people who are kind of already working on them. And I don't, you know, Mark, not to take away from what's happening with the website, because I think that what you're doing there with the GIS repository is great. And I think it just needs, you know, it just needs more. I think that there's a lot more data out there that could be organized and deposited into the hub. But that needs, again, it needs, you know, folks pushing that forward and trying to determine how that's going to happen. We did have a series of meetings last year looking at data, ecological data, and it's one of the things that I think came out of that for me is that the Nature Conservancy has been looking at its own data and all of the different types of data that it has, some electronic, some still in paper files. And then they're still trying to figure out how to get it all in one place. And so I think that really helped me understand kind of what a daunting task it might really be. So, and as important, I think that it is really important for that work to continue. And for the time being, I'm kind of looking towards the restoration mapping efforts that are already in place and looking for that to be at least a basic data repository that will help us kind of be a jumping off point, I guess.
Thanks, that helps.
And Mark put up you know, his information, his contact information, if you are willing to share data for your organization with that effort. So thanks, Mark. And we have a new person that came in. I don't know, did we hear from you yet, Laura Milkert? I don't remember. I'm sorry.
No, thank you, Patty.
Oh,
Sorry
good. Okay, yeah, you were a little late. That's fine. Yeah, so you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you. We're really just catching up with each other today.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad to at least catch the last bit of this meeting here. I'm Laura Milkert. I'm also with the Field Museum. I see a couple of our Field Museum folks in here as well. I'm our Conservation Ecology Manager, and we work throughout Chicago Wilderness. We have primarily a focus in the city of Chicago, the Calumet region, and then Pembroke Township and Kankakee. So that's what we're doing. It's great to see some faces here and looking forward to hearing about the good work that you all are doing this year as well.
Great, thank you. I think we're just about ready to wrap up, Laura. Hopefully next time you can come, you can hear more. There'll be upcoming cafes that we're working on too. And so I think there's a lot of really positive movement with this group, and I have every confidence that it's going to continue. Thanks.
Are there any, Patty, are there any sort of next steps that folks should be aware of? Sort of, you know, either looking for things coming out or keeping an eye out for our next cafe, or sort of how should folks stay connected?
Well, people can take kind of what they have heard here. If they know of anybody who is interested in any of these things that we're working on, they should feel free to have them get in touch with me. And yes, we will have another cafe in the near future. It's not scheduled yet. Laura and Brandon and I will work on that. But I hope to have that kind of in the near future so that people can learn more about the next initiative that this goal team is working on. We are currently having these business meetings every quarter. And it may be that we start doing that a little bit more frequently so we keep the initiative moving. But I think we'll kind of determine that as we move forward through this year. If that's necessary, then we'll do it. But if it continues to, we continue to make progress without that, then I think that that's the way that we'll go. So from my perspective, I think those are the next things to look for the next cafe is probably the next thing coming up.
Yeah, so I just want to support that and say I will continue to share any cafe information, future meeting information on our website and through our newsletter. I hope that you all receive my newsletter, but if you do not, please reach out to me afterwards and I can help make sure that you do. So I'm dropping my email into the chat. And if there's more information that people would like, feel free to reach out to me about the other goal teams and initiatives and their meeting schedules.
Right, and I do have that new distribution list for this group, and I will send out reminders if there's something that doesn't come up any other way. I'll send things to Laura to post, but I'll also reach out to you. But you also have my email contact through that distribution list, so please feel free to get in touch with me. And Jim, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. I'm listening to two meetings today, and I would like to make sure that this group knows that this cooperative weed management area is also more than just tackling invasive species, let's say on the ground, but I also would say it should be working with the Illinois Invasive Species Council, which is looking to target certain species, get them off the market. One of the big ones that, we got rid of buckthorn, we got rid of purple loosestrife, Callery pear or Bradford pear, as it's known now, has become a big issue. And so that's another aspect of that cooperative weed management area that we can bring focus to. And then secondly, as I was listening to the Illinois Nature Preserves Commission, and I've heard this, that there's also a very, and this is more for the collar counties and things, but there is, as many of you might have heard, there's a lot of issues with herbicide drift. And some of this drift is impacting natural areas or private forestry lands. And this is something that the cooperative weed management area could work with the Nature Preserves Commission, the Friends of Illinois Nature Preserves, and other folks and the Department of Ag to try to figure out how we can limit this. And I think it's all because they've gone to a new herbicide on agricultural lands, and even some of the farmers are angry because they're doing with Roundup Ready herbicide now, and the other herbicide is completely different and it kills their crops. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention because I think it's a good thing with the cooperative weed management area. And Patty, I don't know when you got time, but if you and I could talk about that, I'd like to give you some update, I think.
Okay, sure.
All right. So, but I just wanted to add those things as I'm listening to the Nature Preserves Commission. They are getting complaints from landowners with their forested lands. And so that, is not a good thing when we start losing 100, 200-year oaks. And so I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
Great. Thanks, Jim. That's really good insight. And Melissa has her hand up too.
Yes, I just wanted to say that he just mentioned the Illinois Invasive Species Council. And they do meet quarterly and they do have speakers, I believe, at most of those. So if there's somebody who wants to talk about that cooperative weed mix, I can get the, you know, the words. That might be something I could suggest to the committee.
Okay, that's a great idea. Thank you, Melissa. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? I'm just going to leave a little space for anybody to come up with anything. Okay, well, I think then that brings us to the end of our time together. I'm so happy to see everybody today. I'm really happy to see some new faces and some old friends. And hope to see you at the next cafe first and then at our next business meeting in the next quarter. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Patty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
I will save the transcript and upload the recording, and then you can decide if you want me to send out a follow-up or if you just want to add it to the minutes or whatever you want to do with it. So,
Okay, great. Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye, Laura.